Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is straight out of Boston here, and today I'm back for episode number 4 of my Tampa Bay Rays Let's Play series here on OOTP 18. So today we're back with the first offseason episode in this series. We have got the 2017-18 offseason coming up. The Dodgers took down the Toronto Blue Jays in the World Series. In Game 7, they won by a score of 9-0 behind Clayton Kershaw's shutout. As you can see right here, I think he had the complete game, a shutout, one hitter. So that is why you have a guy like Clayton Kershaw on the staff. There it is right there, 8 Ks, one walk. So that's that. We finished the year 73-89. I think we had the 10th worst record in the league. If I remember correctly, that is 4 teams ahead of us there and 4 more in the NL. So that's the 9th worst record. So there you have it. We're going to have the 9th pick in next June's draft. Not too shabby. Kind of what I was expecting. Not the worst of the worst in the league, but definitely in the bottom bit of it. And we've got Nathan Eovaldi coming off of Tommy John surgery. So he signed that weird 2-year deal with the team option for 2018 for only $2 million. So I think we're going to pick that up. I think that's a good little figure for him. We get 1 year out of him. If he's having a good first half, we can trade him or try and extend him for even longer. But he's not even interested in playing for Kevin Cash, so we're going to have to execute the option then, and hopefully that's not too big of a problem. So let's look at the front office and the personnel, because this is when I want to start improving our personnel a little bit, our coaching staff, maybe even looking at an upgrade at manager if there is one, but especially scouting director. So Theo Epstein, of course, we signed. We like what he does here, but I have figured out a little bit about this game, the best ways of sort of acquiring talent and rebuilding. Definitely the international scouting is the most important this year when you're in the rebuilding phase, even more than amateurs. And in the most recent update, they did add, they made it so that more of the guys who are not from the U.S. who work in the other leagues will be more willing to come over and work for the major league teams. So if we go to scout ratings, if there are any like super good scouts, so now like we could get Emmanuel Torres, or we could have always gotten a Logan White, but it's really just how you value that international versus amateurs. And you know, we did just sign Theo, so I don't want to fire him and have to pay 2 scouts at this point. I'm pretty sure Theo has a 3 or 4 year deal at the very least, so we're not going to be doing that just because the upgrade isn't quite enough for me. Now we could go out and get like a Don Mattingly at manager, but I think, again, same thing. There isn't really enough of an upgrade where I'm going to be willing to can our guy just yet. So we could look at getting better pitching and hitting coaches if there are upgrades available, but it doesn't even look like there really are either. So I think we're just going to keep most of the same staff for now. And let's look at the roster moves we got to make. So we got 2 pending free agents, Colby Rasmus and Alex Cobb. Cobb's star-and-a-half pitcher. Probably not going to bring him back. Rasmus would be a serviceable outfielder, but looking for $7 million a year. And obviously, being the Tampa Bay Rays, we don't have a ton of money to work with. We've got $14 million for extensions, as it stands right now. So Steven Souza, let's look at the arbitrary figures here. And wow, okay, not discussing this right now. So a lot of guys are unhappy, it seems, with the team last year. I don't know what that is all about. Same thing here. So it's not really team chemistry. It's just team record and performance, I guess, from a lot of these guys. Dickerson doesn't want to negotiate either. So this is interesting. I haven't seen this yet. This is not good. So Miller is the guy who will negotiate. That's good. Dickerson I'm going to non-tender anyway, I think. He's definitely not worth paying the $3.4 million. Miller is a guy I want to bring back. I could think about extending. He's a good, not great player at shortstop. Shortstop's a tough position. Not a lot of good shortstops in the league, so you know, Miller, in that sense, is a commodity for us, but he could also become a trade chip as he gets closer and closer to free agency. But he's not looking for a lot of money as it stands right now. So even if we did a deal like this, I think that would still be tradable. If we did $13 million, and let's say we did it for 5 years and made those last 2 team options, as you guys know I like to do. So it's really a 3-year deal. So we're buying out 1 year of free agency. And he likes that. So, all right, we'll submit that extension. So that figure for him allows us to possibly keep him, you know, when he starts making that money. But, you know, it is also likely that he could be traded 1, 2, 3 years into that extension. So that really doesn't mean necessarily we're building around Brad Miller. But if we can get him under that contract, that's a tradable contract, even if he doesn't perform too well. But the thing is, I mean, $13 million, it does depend on the team, the market. I mean, for us, if he's only a 3-win player, $13 million might not be the best for us, even if it is at shortstop, and that is a factor, but still. Tim Beckham, he's looking for $1 million. I don't know if I'm going to bring him back for that. Kurt Casale, he's been terrible for us. Colon we want back, obviously. He's been a dynamite reliever. And with the way that the reliever markets work in this game, as opposed to last year's game, Colon could eventually become a trade chip for us too, if it gets to that point. But he's got 3 years of team control left, and I'm hoping to at least be a competitive playoff team by the time he hits free agency. So maybe he's off the team by then, but year 3, year 4, that's when I want to start thinking about making the playoffs and being a team that can compete with anyone in the league. Sean Tullison, we're not going to bring back. He spent most of the year in AAA. Kevin Segrist, he is a lefty, which I kind of like. So for $1.9 million, I think we'll bring him back, but he doesn't even want to negotiate with us either. I haven't seen this before. I don't really know what to do about this. Erasmo Ramirez, he is definitely tradable at making 3 points. Well, is he? I don't know. It's a good question because he's not really a starter. Not anymore. What would his market look like as it stands right now? So the market for Amir is not terribly strong, but I see Zach Birdie here. I would like this trade. He could become a nice cost-controllable reliever for us for a few years. I think I'm going to make that move, to be honest, but I wonder if I can get Birdie for even closer to nothing. Yadiel Hernandez wouldn't be bad either. He seems like he could be a decent fourth outfielder. But let's look at Birdie. And if I can get him, he might be the kind of guy I can get for nothing, but close to nothing. Schultz, who's that Schultz guy? Or Chase Woodley. Let's do Chase Woodley for Zach Birdie. That's an easy deal to make. And then Yadiel Hernandez as potential fourth outfielder. I don't hate. If we can get him for close to nothing, I'd probably do that. Ricky Weeks, yeah, you can have Ricky Weeks. No thanks. I'll take Yadiel. All right, so we do a couple moves right there. Let's go back. So Rosmo, I think it's tough. Farquhar for $1 million, that's an easy one. Of course, he doesn't want to come back either. This is so frustrating. I don't know if this is the manager or if this is just the team is so bad. It seems like some of it's the manager. I think we're going to have to fire the manager, and maybe that'll get some of these guys back on our good side. So let's look at managers. It's too bad that it's come to this, but Kevin Cash, he's going to have to go. We could go with Don Mattingly, but I personally don't think Don Mattingly is a very good manager. I thought all those Dodger teams always underachieved, and Dave Roberts stepped right in and showed that he was a better manager, in my opinion, than Don Mattingly last year. So I don't really want to bring him in. Just looking at some of the stuff here. I mean, it's important to look at this stuff, but he's kind of more of a conventional guy. More conventional than I like, I think, but I'm not really sure if there aren't really any other great candidates here. I'm trying to look for names that I actually recognize, like Brian Butterfield, but he's kind of the same thing. He's conventional. He does favor OBP a lot, though, which I like, and favor prospects, which is good. So maybe Butterfield will be our guy. Let's go for that. Brian Butterfield. Offer contract. 5 years. Ugh. How about 3 years? And I give you $1.3 million. And we're just going to have to pretty much wait, sit in our hands until we hear back from him. We can add these guys to the roster. All right, so Brian Butterfield does sign on. Cash gets the brush off. So now let's see about getting some of these guys, particularly Danny Farquhar. Nope. Still doesn't want to negotiate. Xavier Cedeno. He was one of the guys who specifically mentioned Cash. So that's a good one. We can get Cedeno back. And Farquhar, it's like we're not going to bring him back. I mean, he is under team control, so we're fine on that end. But it's not a good look. It's not a good sign for us. So some of these guys, Boxberger, Cedeno, obvious bringbacks for us, kind of the strength of our bullpen. And Jake Odorizzi, who he also doesn't want to. All right, well, he is definitely a trade candidate 2 years away from free agency. If we could get a good deal for him, considering what the starting pitching market is these days, I think we would have to consider it. And let's see, I saw a couple names. I saw Stephen Vogt. I like that name, but Vogt is a little bit older, probably not really in our window. But he's a good underrated catcher in this game. I got him on the cheap in one of my other saves. And he turned out to be really good for me. Yeah, so his ratings aren't that good, but he's underrated. D. Gordon, not really. I mean, I want guys who are going to be around for a while. Soler, he's under contract, doesn't make anything, but not really that great of a player. Strikes out way too much. And after that, just aren't a lot of names here that interest me too much. Thinking about the long term, Chris Davis. Same thing though, he's a free agent 2 years from now. So same time period, or same time frame as Odorizzi, basically. Dalton Pompey. That's not a bad one. He's a nice defensive outfielder. A lot of years left. Seems like he can hit the ball a little bit. Our scouts think he's a dominant offensive player, so I would be interested in this. I don't know. Odorizzi for Pompey. Doesn't seem like we're going to get a better deal for Odo. I do think Odorizzi could have a bounce back year. I mean, he was pretty good the last 2 years before this past one. What do our scouts think of him? Bottom half of the rotation starter. Pompey seems like he would be a really nice get. I think we're going to pull the trigger on this deal. We got a few extra years of team control. We got a nice outfielder, a good defensive left fielder. The thing people were mentioning to me is with all the corner guys that we do have, if we wanted to stick Bell in right field, which it looks like that's going to become his permanent position, which I like. We've got Gillespie, we've got Bowers, who can play in one of the other corner spots, and then Tellez. That's the only thing. So maybe, I don't know, maybe we don't really have room for Pompey. Maybe I shouldn't have pulled the trigger on that deal so quickly, because now we might have to trade one of our young bats to fit all these guys in, or potentially trade Kiermaier. But maybe we can bring, I don't know. Tellez also looks like he might not be an everyday player. We'll see on that. But I wonder what his market would be right now. So with Rowdy Tellez, the best guys being offered up to us are corner guys also, which obviously doesn't really help us. But there are a couple decent up to middle sort of guys that I think we could use. Also, Jorge Alfaro, although I really don't like his ratings, those last two particularly, in the hitting categories. Andy Ibanez, ooh, that's another one that's not bad. Our scouts like him a lot more than the OSA does. I also saw Forrest Wall offered to us, which I really liked. A couple guys from the Nationals, Pedro Severino in particular, not a bad one at all. And Rafael Bautista even. So it seems like we could possibly be able to get some sort of top-ish prospects. But where are the deals from the Rockies are the ones that kind of tip my interest. Forrest Wall, Ryan McMahon. McMahon is historically a very good OOTP player, especially in last year's game, but doesn't look like those ratings are going to translate to this year's game. Forrest Wall, though, I like his potential ratings. That 65 contact. Doesn't really play the best defense on the infield, but could help us up the middle in the long run, which is kind of possibly where we're going to be looking at in the future here with potentially Miller being gone, and then we have Duffy and Hanson who aren't really sure things. So infielders are kind of where we're looking if we want to build up our position player pool. And Wilson Ramos right now, maybe not a long-term option at catcher because he does only have 1 year left on this contract. So catcher is another option if we could get. I mean, I like the idea of getting an Alfaro, but I didn't love his ratings. So we can hold on to Tellez for now, but that's something maybe we look at down the road a little bit. Let's go back to trying to sign some of our guys. So Souza, still not interested in negotiating. Casali, I guess for $800,000 we'll bring Kirk Casali back because that's really not a lot of money at all. And then let's see, Dickerson's going to be non-tendered. Beckham, I think I'm going to non-tender. Souza I'd like back at the arbitration total. Segrest, same thing. I'm going to take him in arbitration. Erasmo, kind of a question. Farco, we already know he is in a bad mood right now. Erasmo's tough. I don't know. He's kind of that. I mean, he could be that good swingman, but hasn't really shown a lot the last couple of years. To be honest, we kind of need the arms at this point, though. So I'm gonna bring him back. We've cleared up some money already, so we're gonna have money to spend in free agency, even bringing back Erasmo for the 3.6. All right, so we are just a couple days ahead of free agency right here. A few arbitration matters sorted out. And we didn't win any awards, but one noticeable thing, Longoria does finish third in the MVP voting. So looking back at that trade, people were like, oh, why would Toronto want Longoria? I mean, he was an MVP candidate. They found ABs for him. I don't think it was a problem fitting him and Donaldson in the lineup. And the package they gave up for him was really, that looks like it might not turn out to be a great trade for us. I think Biagini will be fine. I'm not worried about him having a bad start for us, but Tellez, I don't know where he fits in the fold. Urena, we'll see. He's looking a little bit better now. Definitely going to be a factor up the middle for us next season, probably at shortstop or second base, depending on how the middle sorts out. But, I mean, really, that trade deadline was really salvaged by the Pittsburgh Pirates trade where we got Josh Bell and Alan Hansen for basically Matt Andres and a couple throw-ins. So if you flip those two, it makes a little bit more sense that our deadline does. Like, basically, if we got if we got Bell for Longoria, and we got Tellez and the other guy, Urena, for, I'm losing my train of thought. Jesus. But anyway, I got distracted because there are a ton of good international free agents here. Very interesting. Okay, so I was kind of afraid with the last patch they might have toned down how many good international free agents there are every year, because there are pretty much an absurd amount every offseason, it seems. But it doesn't seem that they've done that. So we've got a few good relievers here, and we want to see what their demands are more than anything else. The really good starter, this guy, he's looking for $20 million. With the starting market, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to really going after one of these big name starters. This guy's only looking for $10 million. And he seems like he would be kind of a solid number 2.5, 3 guy. Probably not a 1, maybe not a 2 on a great rotation. Other than that, good relievers, like I said. If the position players aren't the best, there's pretty much just this one guy who I don't want to pay that much money for. But getting this starter would be interesting. He looks like he's going to be really good. They don't have any ratings on him or anything. We can also look at obviously we'll look at the Major League free agents, and then we'll look at the posted players as well. Usually the players that get posted from the other leagues are not as good as the randomly generated international free agents. So I doubt we'll see anything too interesting in the posted players. Yeah, so there's this Hideto Asamura. For those wondering, Ohtani, in my Red Sox save, he got posted after the 2019 season, I want to say. So that was 3 years in. So it takes a while sometimes, and I imagine it's going to take a while for him to get posted in this save. And even when he does, I don't know if we're going to be in the market for him, ready to pay him that much money. So obviously, free agency, a little bit different when you're a team like the Tampa Bay Rays. You're not necessarily looking for the big names out there. Not paying top dollar for a lot of guys, but we do have holes on this team we want to fill. I think especially in the rotation, we did trade away Odorizzi, so we kind of want to look at a long-term replacement for him. We've got Eovaldi and De Leon, who I think are both going to be in the rotation next year. We're going to see what they got, but that would ideally be the 4-5. That's why I think that international guy would fit really well right in the middle of our rotation if we took out Stanek. And then past that, I think the bullpen is solid. We can look at cheap bullpen options. But we got Birdie who we can throw in there, Jake Barrett, possibly who we picked up from Arizona last year. So we've got some options at the very least, and we could possibly look at getting some upgrades. The lineup, I think, is not complete, but I don't really know where we would throw. I mean, I kind of want to give Duffy at-bats. I want to give Alan Hansen at-bats. And I think we're going to have Urena come up at some point. So I don't think we're really looking. We have another corner guy almost ready here, Joe McCarthy. I'm not sure he's going to be so good, though. He looks more like a fourth outfielder type. But it seems like where our farm system is at now with the guys that are about to come up and immediately help, it looks, other than Honeywell, primarily to be position players. If you look at Urena, this Joe McCarthy guy, Jake Fraley. You've got Garrett Whitley, the former first-round pick. A couple catchers there. I don't know where Urena went. I guess Urena's already on the Major League roster. He's just not getting everyday at-bats. We also have Willie Adams, but Adams, we'll see what he becomes. So I think we don't really want to mess with the position players too much. I think I would definitely be looking to add a starter and maybe a couple bullpen pieces, maybe some depth guys in the lineup. But in terms of outfielders, especially with Pompey, we don't even really need a backup center fielder now. He pretty much is our backup center fielder. So that is kind of one benefit to that move. But we could look to make sort of a bargain signing, getting a guy like a Michael Brantley, who could become a trade chip, or we could just let walk at the end of next year for a compensation pick. But we could bring him in, DH him. But the same thing is, like I said, I don't want to take away ABs from some of our younger guys. So I don't really know if a big bat is the way to go, unless it's going to be up the middle.